All right, now I'm here.
So I freaked out because I was told that somebody that used to work for me, when they vacated a house owned by somebody else that works for me, there were bed bugs.
Oh, I
Oh,
see stories about that everywhere.
it's so gross. It's so gross. So I'm like, oh my God, I gotta fumigate my office. I gotta fumigate my vehicles that they were in. I'm just losing it.
There is a thing, and when I say I've seen it everywhere, I mean, I'm hardly ever on social media where something doesn't pop up. And one of the things that popped up, I think it was either this morning or yesterday, is it looks like a small little vacuum cleaner. And somehow or another, you can use it on, the bed frame, the box, the sheet, the mattress, everything else. And purportedly it works. And then there was another video about a week ago talking about how if you stay at a hotel, there's a decent chance, I guess, that you might have the problem there. It was explaining how, yeah, I don't remember what you had to do. You had to spray something on and then, let it set for 5 or 10 minutes. And then you can actually see them, I guess, because they come up to the surface. The whole thing is creeping me out. I mean, as a civilization, I thought we moved beyond this, but apparently not.
Well, Terende Aragua had them in the Aurora apartments down there.
Did they really? I did not
Yeah.
know that. Oh,
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
was talking
Thank God.
to one of my agents, her husband, he's a supervisor level in that area of expertise. And he goes, yeah, it was gross. They were on the walls. There was some woman, her face was just chewed up from it.
Oh my gosh, I
They-
didn't know they did stuff like that.
yeah, they eat humans when you're sleeping. And
Okay.
it's disgusting. Anyway, I totally lost it. And so I said, well, will Jen asked if he would go over and look at this house, and because it's vacated, but they left stuff behind, including beds. And he came by on Monday, and thank God his diagnosis was no, there's no bed bugs. That's not
There
true.
you go. There
So
you go.
but that was after I fumigated my office. I fumigated both of my vans. On Sunday, there I am with my power washer just blasting the inside of this van after fumigating. It's clean now, but no bugs, which is good.
You know what? I probably, I don't know that I would have thought that bed bugs would have been an issue to talk about on the radio, but maybe I need to see if it's a problem. I mean, if it's like 1 out of 1,000 people, okay, well, that's not. But if it's 1 out of 100, 5 out of 100, 10 out of 100, I mean, if you, because as soon as I saw this talking about hotels, I started thinking about every hotel that I've stayed in the past couple of years.
It's
And then,
hotels.
yeah, and then I'm thinking of, okay, well, that room probably was occupied, 60, 70, 80% of the time. And do I know the people that were occupying that room? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, my stager told me because her daughter used to travel a lot for sports, and she said, yeah, you had to check to see if the sheets felt sandy, you know.
wow.
She goes, it's in a lot of hotels. And what the pesticide guy said was is basically they live for about 2 months. They'll live in the bedding. Their eggs will be there, and they just come out if they have something to feed on. But the only thing that kills them, besides the chemicals, is extreme cold or extreme heat, like 140 or more.
Oh,
So,
wait, you know what? That's what this, now that I remember, that's what this guy was doing. He said you go to a hotel room and they'll usually have an iron like in the closet there. And then there was some way or other, he said go ahead. It's almost like you're ironing the mattress or the sheets in the hotel. And that somehow, I guess that advanced heat. Oh my God, I'm freaking out now, Barb. Thank you. Thank you.
It's not a pleasant subject, but I was
Oh,
just glad to learn that my office and my vans weren't infested. It was like, oh, it's so gross. You should have seen when I went to Home Depot to get the bombs. I was talking to the girls at the checkout thing, and they kind of stood back, like, oh,
right?
gross, get away from me. And I'm like, well, I don't know for sure, but this is just precautionary, you know.
Unclean, unclean.
That's
Well,
right.
somebody had asked me, there was a ivermectin salve, and apparently some of the Walgreens carried it. So asked if I could look around and see if I could find it, and I didn't find it. But when I went to Walgreens and I was asking where this stuff would be, they're like, "Well, it'd be over like with RIT and the other head lice stuff." And I'm like, "Whoa, hold on! I mean, I'm thinking we're talking about something for COVID or whatever." And I guess I had a look on my face or something because the woman who was helping me said, "Yeah, I've had it a couple of times. It's not nice." And she
Yeah.
was trying to make me feel good, but she just made me feel like it's every dang where that you turn around.
Yeah, it's anyway, it was interesting to have that conversation and now I know something about it. Now I'm going to be a lot more cautious going into hotel rooms, you know.
Right?
I never
Um,
thought about it.
So this is what I like. While we're talking, I thought, I'm just going to look up this real quickly. I Google it. Bed bugs can be found in the cleanest homes and are an increasing problem across the country. Because the question was, should I be concerned about this? And the other is, how big of an issue is it? And none of them say anything. All they say is, well, it's more prevalent than it used to be. Okay, that does not help me here at all.
Yeah,
Although Reddit has bed bugs aren't as bad as I thought they were. Oh my God. All right. I need to look into
that's
this because if
me.
it's an issue, I should talk about it. And I'd like to know a little bit more because I don't travel a lot, but you know, I travel enough. My wife and my kids travel enough. Bed
Yeah,
bugs.
I
Okay.
travel enough, right? I just
Yep.
not it doesn't cross my mind. Now I'm going to be, you know, wearing a hazmat suit
Right. Yeah.
in hotels. All right. Well, I guess we're ready.
We're ready. I'll count us down in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. And if you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or just search for it on YouTube or on podcasts like iHeartRadio. You'll find her in both locations. Barb, what are we talking about this weekend?
Well, Richard, thank you. And I'm excited about today's show. The first topic is on a lot of people's minds right now, which is our home prices in Colorado heading up or down? We don't know. It's weird. We're seeing some mixed signals. Like if you go to Florida, a lot of the prices are dropping substantially. And that really has to do with hurricanes and insurance and things like that. Condos not being able to resell, they can't get loans. There's some blacklisted properties that were actually blacklisted by Fannie Mae just solely based on the age of the building. So crazy stuff going on there, but not so much in Colorado. And Realtor.com actually predicted that Colorado and Colorado Springs in particular would be the hottest existing resale market in the country for 2025. So we're seeing some good signs, but we're also seeing some softening here and there. So we're going to deep dive into that. And then the second subject is about pricing. I actually do this every week. I meet with a whole bunch of sellers and we sit down and we talk about what the market's doing around their home, their similar sales, and how do you set the right price for your home here in Colorado to get it sold in a reasonable amount of time. The third topic is about what do listing agents and buyer agents do? I think you'll be surprised to find that there is no job description for real estate agents. There's very little guidance or parameters that come down from the state licensing board, and all the rest is the Wild West. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they do, what they don't do, and as a consumer, what you can do to protect yourself to make sure you get served properly. And the very last topic we're going to hit on is something that I get asked an awful lot. What do we need to do to downsize, to declutter, to prepare our home for sale? Most people don't live in the home the same way they put it on the market. Very few people are clutter free. At least that's what I'm seeing in my practice. So we're going to talk about the steps in order to get ready to downsize and declutter. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Now, Barb, if you look online about home prices, it gives the impression that in some other areas of the country, home prices are falling. So, what are you seeing for home prices here in Colorado, especially along the Front Range?
Well, this is a great place to live. It's beautiful. The weather is most of the time really nice. And there's a lot of outdoor activity. There aren't very many bugs. There's a lot to do around here. So it's a highly desirable, considered a garden spot to live. But what we're seeing is that the active listing prices aren't really looking the same as recent historic sales. So that would give me a clue of a trend is happening right now. And that's one of the things that I do is I research data in different areas. I do it on a pretty much daily basis for the current clients that I'm meeting with. And I also do it on a weekly basis for this show. So unlike other areas where we're seeing price corrections, we're not really seeing much of that right now. But a home seller really has to consider what is their current competition? Who are they competing with right now? I've got a home that just sold down in Fountain, and many of the competing homes around that home were brand new, whereas this one was over 20 years old. So some of the buyers are saying, nice home, but we opted for a brand new house. Even though they couldn't get a home quite as big, when you buy a new home, these builders are giving away a lot of incentives to get buyers to buy their homes. I've seen discounts as much as $45,000, either for closing cost, buying the rate down, taking some money off the price, just to get buyers in the door. So if you're a home seller on a resale home, you have to consider everything around you before you make a good decision about how you're going to position the home for sale. And in general, buyers buy on house payments for the most part. Most of them are basically having to get a loan and they're having to afford that monthly payment on the home. The good news, though, is the rates have actually pretty much stabilized in the past probably 3 or 4 weeks. They went back into the sixes in February, and they've been pretty much the same almost every week. Tiny fluctuations you'll see on a daily basis. But as of the recording right now, we're showing a 30-year fixed is a 30-year fixed is 6.75, and the VA and FHA government loans are in the low sixes. So for most buyers, they can manage that, especially if they get some support to buy their mortgage rate down. They can actually get their rate down into the fives if they pay a little bit more cash up front and make that payment more affordable. So what most agents do is when they tell a seller, I think you should price your home here, they're looking at historic sales. Well, here's one that's like your home, Mr. Seller, that sold for this much. And typically, if you look at 3 or 4 of them, you're going to see a big wide range in sale prices for that similar sale. But I don't just look at similar sales. I kind of try to put my buyer hat on and take a look at what a buyer can get in that general price range. And you don't have to be like an appraiser to do that. I find that the buyers actually are way more educated about the current market in their price range than even some real estate agents are, because they're constantly looking. They can see, oh, look, I can get this home that has this much square footage at this price, as compared to that one that's smaller, or that one that's dated, whatever it is that they're looking for. They know the market in their little area that they're looking in quite well. And you'll be able to tell by the showing activity once you go on the market whether or not the buyer community actually thinks that your home is priced what I call realistically versus optimistically. And that's why a lot of people kind of look at Zillow, and the Zillow, what they call Zestimates. They had to put a Z in front of it because they got sued. But basically, they have some sort of calculation that they come up with. They call it an algorithm, which makes it sound cooler, but that doesn't mean it means anything. They kind of average the sales around you based on square footage. And we know that certain floor plans are more desirable than others. We know that certain locations, whether or not the home has views, makes it more desirable than others. And what the Zillow calculation does essentially is just average the homes around you and go, okay, we think your home is worth this much. The problem is, for a home seller and for buyers, they are definitely looking at these values because they have a lot of eyes on their website. They have 220 monthly, I'm sorry, let me say that again, DJ. Zillow has 220 million monthly visitors watching their website in their local area every single month. So they know that they have a lot of the population that's looking for homes looking at their website, right? And they will actually, even if the home's on the market, they will put their opinion of value, regardless of where it's priced. And in general, your first impression is going to be online. And your first impression is also going to be about pricing, because the buyers can see everything around it. And most buyers are looking for the best home that they can get in their price range. So if you are thinking of making a move, this is one of the things that we help home sellers with every single week. We show them what similar sales look like. We also show them what their current competition looks like. And that way we give them really good information so they can make an educated decision about how to position their home based on their needs, their timeline, and in a short amount of time. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to sell. Right now, we have over 28,127 buyers in waiting just on our little website, in addition to Zillow's 220 million. So generally, we can match as many as 700 buyers to your home. And we can market directly to those buyers that are a high match for your home. So just call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And you can reach Barb and her team at 719-301-3900. We're talking about whether or not home prices are dropping here locally. Will you please share with us the current market trends, Barb Schlinker?
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking at all the different areas up and down the Front Range, and some counties the prices are coming up. Some they're softening, and the data I'm getting is actually almost real time. So, as an example, El Paso County, since the beginning of the year, the prices have come up a good $30,000, while the average days on market have dropped about 20 days. So that's a good sign for El Paso County. Douglas County has really stepped up in price quite a bit, probably over $30,000. And the same thing, average days on market dropped from like 110 down to 84. But the prices are higher definitely in Douglas County as compared to El Paso County. Places like Aurora are looking very flat pretty much. Median price is in about the 540 range, but the average days on market is longer, 145 days. So out in that area, there is a lot of new construction competition, and you definitely have to consider that when you're thinking of selling a home. Teller County, the prices have softened a bit. The prices have come down into the mid fives, while the average days on market is kind of staying the same at 137. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. Teller County tends to really peak out in the summer because it's up in the mountains, and that would be true for any mountain community. people come out in force in the summer and they all fall in love with the area and the prices tend to go up. Even Pueblo is going up in its median list price and average days on market are dropping. Highlands Ranch is up there, into the mid nines, and it really zoomed up from, say, the fall. Average days on market only 52 days. In a place like Littleton, the prices have dropped a bit down to 822 for a median price. Average days on market 89. So even older homes are selling for a pretty substantial price up in Littleton. So we look at values all over the area. What it means for home buyers is that if they can afford, I would not wait. We're not going to see a crater of pricing. I don't predict that that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same. Probably it'll end the year higher than it was at the beginning of the year. So if you can afford it and you like the home, don't wait. You can always refinance almost for free. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program, and this is Your Real Estate Voice. Barb Schlinker with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of move, let's do that whole thing over again. 3, 2, 1. If you, 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how do you set a price for your home here in Colorado in order for it to sell. Jeez.
I was getting tongue-tied too.
I know. I don't know. Maybe it's just getting older, but my mouth is dry all the time. And when I wake up, especially after sleeping, I just feel like it's the Sahara Desert. And everybody tells me, well, just drink water, drink water, drink water. That's fine. And I have tried doing that, but I still have a Red Bull sitting in front of me because I need the energy because I don't sleep very well at night. It's a vicious circle, Barb, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I know I've got my addictions to feed as well, like Coke and tea. And I know I should be drinking water, but it's hard to make it happen.
All right. I'm ready for the next one. Barb,
Okay.
count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, a lot of people look at those automated valuations that they see on Zillow, or they look at their neighbor's asking price to help determine what they think their home is worth, especially now that it's taking longer to sell a home. How does a home seller decide what price to set when selling their home?
Well, Richard, pricing a home correctly can mean the difference between getting the most money for a home or having it sit on the market month after month, week after week, with showings but no offers or a few showings. And it does tend to get kind of, market worn and tired. And buyers wonder over a longer period of time about that house if there's, quote, something wrong with it. So it's always good, in my opinion, to price what I call very realistically versus optimistically. If you price it too high and slowly walk the price down, according to the National Association of Realtors, you're actually going to net less money when you do that. So a lot of people tend to sit down with their agent and price the home according to historic similar sales. Oh yeah, my neighbor's home sold for this. I should be able to get that because mine's better, mine's bigger, whatever. But you have to consider the whole picture. It's not just what happened in history. It's what's going on right now. And what is your current competition? And how do you position the home to sell your home in the timeline that you want? Some people want to sell really fast. Some people are okay with testing the market. So it does depend on their needs. But looking back in history, what I tell my clients is all that does is substantiate the value for appraisal purposes, but it doesn't necessarily define what's going to happen today because it's a very dynamic thing, a real estate market. And, things are changing all the time. New competition's going on the market. And I would focus more on those actually than I would on historic sales. You use the historic sales to feed to the appraiser when it's time to substantiate the home is worth your contract price. But the best thing you can do is position it to compete with what's on the market against you right now. And unfortunately, it's not the seller that decides what the home is going to sell for. Even though the seller decides on what the asking price will be, it's the market that decides what the home is going to sell for. And that's why you have to consider all these factors. There are some mistakes that I see happen all the time. Like some sellers will say, well, I want this much, therefore I'm going to sit on the market and wait until I get this much. And actually, in my experience, very rarely does that work. Or some people overprice their home for, quote, negotiating room. Can't you price it high? And just won't they make an offer? And the answer is no. These buyers are more educated than ever before because they have all this online data. They know what the home values are around you, and they know if it's priced too high versus priced realistically. Some people price their home. Another huge pricing mistake is to price their home to recoup the cost of their investment of improvements. And that's a touchy subject because buyers want updated homes, right? In fact, they almost expect many homes to be updated. And so the seller's like, well, I invested all this money. I brought my home, even though it's an older home, to today's standards. Shouldn't the buyer pay a premium for that? And the answer is no. They're going to pay market value. Or what they're going to do is it's going to guarantee that your home will sell versus the neighbor's dated home won't. So a lot of people will price their home. They'll add the cost of the improvements to similar sales and substantiate that, but it really doesn't work. And the reason is if you've been sitting on home 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you haven't done any improvements, the buyer's expectation is unless I get a huge discount, I'm not going to buy that home. I'm going to buy one that's already updated or even a brand new home. That's key. So you have to make the decision based on what is currently available in the market and how do you position your home to be the best home on the block based on what you're seeing. And when it is priced right, in any market, you're going to get multiple showings, possibly multiple offers, and it'll sell in less than 30 days. That's the most ideal thing. So I definitely would take a look at things like the pricing trends. And that's one of the things that kind of is surprising me lately when I sit down and meet with sellers. I'm looking at, okay, similar homes sold a few months ago for this price. Logically, you'd think your home would be worth that much. But then if you look at what's available on the market right now, it's 20, 40, 50,000 less that looks very similar to that historic sale. That gives me an indication of a pricing trend that's going down. And if the trend is going down, you need to lead the market down, be the most aggressively priced home on the market. Now, not everybody wants to do that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The market is going to tell you right away if you got it wrong. If you're not getting very many showings, you're overpriced. If you're getting showings but no offers, you're overpriced. Buyers are finding other things to buy instead of your home, right? And I get it. Most sellers want the most money. They want to squeeze every penny they can get out of a home. But actually, if you're priced realistically, that is the way to get the most money. It's not by overpricing and building in negotiating room because in most cases, it just doesn't happen. Buyers make offers and it is an emotional sale based on falling in love with the home and, oh my God, I have to have that one. And they're willing to fund the cost of your home because they love it, right? If it's overpriced, they're a little bit hesitant to go look at the home, right? because they think it's overpriced and they don't think that it's going to be something that will fit in their budget. And they're also reluctant to make an offer because they don't think you're going to accept it or even negotiate with them. And buyers do a lot of their research online. They know the market very well. They know what similar homes are going for. They know which ones are going under contract fast. They know which ones are sitting for a long time, and they are making a decision whether or not to even leave their fuzzy bunny slippers and come look at your home based on pricing. If you overprice a home, all you're doing is helping your competition sell their home, and you don't want to do that. So picking somebody to help you price a home really takes experience. I know a lot of people select their real estate agent because they sold them the home or because they liked them or because they're nice. But at the end of the day, you want somebody that has the knowledge, the experience, the expertise to help you position the home to get the most when you sell. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. We offer a free in-home consultation on what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for sale. We'll go over all the closing costs, so you'll know exactly how much you'll put in your pocket when it sells, and you'll be able to make a very refined, good decision about whether or not you should price your home a certain way. And the market's going to speak right back to you if you didn't. If you're not getting showings, your price is too high. If you're just getting a few showings, your price is too high. If you're getting low ball offers, your price is a little bit high. And if you're getting showings and no offers, it's maybe 2 to 3% high. We know how to do that, and we can help our sellers position the home so they don't miss out on the right buyer for their home. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And what we're talking about is pricing mistakes that can actually cost you a lot of money. And next up, we're going to talk about some things that help you price your home the right way. Richard?
Barb, we're talking about how to set a price for your home for it to sell here in Colorado and especially along the Front Range. Barb, what are some other magic bullets on pricing your home to get the top dollar for it?
Well, pricing basically is a target. It's what you're hoping for, right? And most buyers will absolutely come in and make offers and ask for certain things. Sometimes they'll come in low on price. Sometimes they'll come in and ask the seller to pay some of their closing cost. But if the home is priced right, you don't have to worry about those things. They understand it. Like I've got one under contract right now where the buyer went up in price to cover the cost of their loan closing cost because they know it's priced right. So pricing absolutely is a form of marketing. It's a strategy. It is a way to attract a buyer. It's also a way to repel certain buyers as well. And you have to price it according to what the house has to offer up against its competition. As an example, I had a home a while back. It was on 5 acres. It was definitely an 80s time work, so much so that it had that mauvey pink carpet. It had the scallop shaped sinks that were pink. It had a lot of things that were pink, which was in style back then. The kitchen was dated. And the sellers, it was an estate sale. So the kids are saying, hey, what do we need to do to get this sold? And so we took a really forensic look at how that home was positioned in that market. How did it compare to similar homes around it with acreage? And they made the best decision by pricing it very realistically. They just did some basic things to make it move-in ready. They changed out the pink carpet to neutral carpet. They painted with polyurethane the pink scallop shape or seashell shaped sinks with, instead of pink, they changed it to white. So it made it basically move-in ready, but maybe not fully remodeled. And then they asked me about the kitchen. The kitchen had tile counters. It had white appliances, which are considered dated, although white's coming back again. And they said, should we remodel the kitchen? I said, no. First of all, you're not going to get the money. It costs probably $75,000 to $100,000 to remodel a kitchen, number one. And if you do that, now you're pricing up into the price range where similar sales around you are much newer, much more updated homes throughout, and you're never going to be able to compete with them, even if you make that investment. The best solution was to price it realistically. I honestly thought it would sell for $950. We priced it at $899. We had 82 people at the 1 hour open house. We got 6 offers and it ended up selling for $975. It's all about pricing and just doing some basic stuff. And don't price for negotiating room. That's a huge mistake because the buyers won't even come look at it. Don't price for concessions because the buyers won't come look at it, and don't expect a bidding war. You can tell if you're priced right if you're getting plenty of offers and or showings in the first 30 days. If you're not, then something's off. It could be marketing, it could be pricing, but you really need to pick the right agent that helps you understand that properly. And that's part of what we do for our clients. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be discussing what's the difference between a listing agent and a selling agent. Stay tuned for that.
Time to get a little sassy. I know it's the same topic, it's just a different twist on everyone.
That seems to be the winning formula.
Yeah. Can you make that one fit? I went a little long for KNUS.
Oh, come on, Barb.
We should do a video.
This is not my first day.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm like, I didn't really take a breath on that one. I'm like, oh boy.
Here, like bed bugs.
Good.
So you know what? I did look it up, and it
You-
turns out you're right. The worst cities in America, you know, Denver is not there, Colorado Springs is not there, and Aurora isn't in the top 5, but it is listed as one of the worst places for bed bugs in the country.
Oh,
So the idea that, you know, Trinidad Agua or Venezuelans, I mean, I don't know that I have a scientific link between the two, but it just stands to reason as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know how they get into a house or what the source is or anything, but it's just gross.
Yeah, let's quit talking about it. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
Well, I had to deal with this problem last week.
Oh my God.
I'm like, those people were in my office. They were in my movie vans. I'm like, oh no. So anyway, it's okay.
All right, let's see. I got
Turned out to be a false accusation.
which is
Brought in-
good. I mean, if it's got to be
Yeah.
something, that's how you'd rather have it, right?
We brought in an expert and he's like, no, that's fine. So
All right, I got a new clock and a new script. I'm ready, Barb. David, you
Ready.
good? David's good. Barb's ready. Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, after commissions to buyers agents are no longer, oh, I see what, 3, 2, 1. Barb, after commissions to buyers agents are no longer offered online, this has likely changed how sales get done. So, what is the difference between a listing agent and a selling agent?
well, Richard, this whole thing started about 10 years ago. There was a lawsuit brought on by home sellers who basically said, wait, I pay the whole commission here but the buyer's agent's working against me. They're trying to beat me up on price and repairs and concessions and threatening to not close right before closing and all the crazy stuff that takes place contract to closing. And seems to me, if I'm paying for that, it's like paying somebody's attorney or something that's suing me. It doesn't make sense. So it started to take off. The Department of Justice got involved. They started doing some investigations. And what they found out was the National Association of Realtors kind of established this thing. Well, just to walk back the history, when I first started, it used to be that everybody worked for the seller because the seller paid the commission. That was the theory, right? But some of the commission was split with the buyer's agent, so all they could leverage all the buyers that were available in the buyer population. However, in the late 90s, kind of when I started in real estate, they came up with this thing, this new thing called buyer agency, meaning I'm only working for the buyer. I'm not working for you, Mr. Seller, even though you're paying me. So, and it created this kind of adversarial scenario. And as a result, that's how the lawsuit came about. And it took traction. And when the DOJ looked into it, they discovered that there were some real estate brokerages that actually had within their training documentation, hey, agent, if you don't offer at least so much commission to the buyer's agent, those agents are going to steer away from your property and go sell another one. And that is price fixing, antitrust. I don't know, Richard, you probably know more about it than I do with your legal background, but it was a problem. And it was still going on right up until they changed this rule last August. In fact, I took over a listing from another discount broker that was only offering 1% that was published in the MLS. And guess what? They weren't getting any showings. The agents didn't want to go work for 1%, right? So this lawsuit got settled. The National Association had to pay a lot of money to stop all of these lawsuits from happening because these attorneys were filing class action lawsuits on behalf of home sellers that paid a commission to a buyer's agent, and they were winning and getting it back. So the National Association said, okay, we give. What we're going to do is no longer is a commission to a buyer's agent published in the multiple listing service. It wasn't just in the multiple listing service. It was also on Zillow and Realtor.com, everywhere where the public could see. They thought that was a good idea before because they thought, oh, well, if the buyer understands how much commission is offered, they can see it and they'll know if their agent is steering them away from the house. But you know how it is. There's a lot of things about influence that take place. So they stripped that completely out of any online access. The amount of commission paid to a buyer's agent is just not available. And what the state of Colorado did is they put it in the contract and they said, okay, very last paragraph, who's going to pay the buyer agent fee? Is it going to be the seller? Is it going to be the buyer? Is it going to be between the two agents? It made it negotiable. And that probably is a good thing. The problem is it's still not really tied to performance. So the buyer's agents are still advocating or working solely for their buyer, sometimes against the seller and maybe not to get it to the finish line, right? So what does a listing agent do? What does a buyer's agent do? Well, a listing agent really has a duty, according to their agreements, to work for the seller. Their job is to go get a buyer, but they may not represent the buyer who ultimately brings the contract on the house. So then the role kind of changes to, all right, well, we got to, promote the interest of the seller to get it to the finish line. The problem with the whole setup, the way it is right now, is that there's no establishment of value. In fact, there's not even a job description for what a listing agent does or what a selling agent does. There is no, it's the Wild West out there for real estate. So they all kind of just copy each other and make it up and do what they think is right. In general, a seller's agent is going to put a home on the listing service to make it available for sale. It will get shared with thousands of other websites, including the multiple listing, realtor.com, zillowhomes.com, a whole bunch of others, right? And so in my view, the listing agent's job is to create demand, to get the home sold and to create demand, right? But what's a buyer's agent do? Well, they're kind of like they go show the home and they claim they're representing the buyer, or maybe they're finding the buyer the right home. We do that for our buyers. Some of our sales never go on the listing service per the seller's direction, and we find a buyer for it. So that's one of the unique services that we bring to the table. But most agents are just showing homes that the buyers can already find on the internet. They're getting them in the door and they're writing up the offer for that buyer and facilitating the transaction. So it's really interesting that, I came from a background of being in the military. I was in the Navy. I worked both as an air traffic controller and worked my way up through the ranks and became an intel officer. My last job was inside NORAD. And, for every single job I had in the service, there was a procedure, a checklist, a how you did things, and how you didn't do things. And there were regulations around the job that we did. It's not so much in real estate. In fact, basically, you have to do what you say you're going to do, but there's no definition of what you're going to do. I don't know if that makes sense, Richard.
I think it does. Yeah. I mean, your guidance on this, I think, is what most people want. And honestly, I think they need it as well.
So on the buyer side, what are they doing? Well, they're trying to, like I have agents that work for me right now that are really good negotiators. I mean, they can definitely get a good price for the buyer on top of finding the buyer the home that they're looking for, some of which never make it on the market. And buyers absolutely love that. That's a service that they value and they're willing to pay for. And the buyers are essentially paying for it in the form of the sales price. So what happens is it falls on the seller's shoulder to pay some or all of the buyer agent's fee, but it is negotiable. And that's one of the things that really changed in the last year. And I even saw what I'm seeing to this day is that if an agent has a buyer interested in one of my lists, I call and go, how much commission is your seller going to pay me for bringing my buyer? So some of them do it before they even show the home as a screening, which is not the intention. The two rules were that commission is not offered online anywhere, and that the buyer's agent has to have a written agreement with that buyer about how they will get paid, not what they will do, but how they will get paid if they were to help the buyer consummate the sale. It's kind of crazy. And the other part of that piece, there is no agreement police over the buyer agency agreement. It's just, I mean, we do have to have our forms in case our files get audited. That is required by the state, but not this new agreement that was required by the National Association of Realtors. They're not saying, oh, well, before you show a home, send me your agreement. That's not happening at all. So we don't know if the buyers showing homes have a written agreement about how they're going to get paid already. We don't know that for sure. In fact, my experience has been, we don't even know if these buyers have verified that these buyers have the ability to buy the home, or that they've checked with the buyer, which I think is important to find out what the buyer is looking for. So that is kind of what's going on now. And part of what we do, both with buyers and sellers, is we sit down and we show them what we think our duties are, what we will do for them. And then we get them signed to an agreement based on how we're going to perform. And that's worked really well for us. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing what's the difference between a listing agent and a selling agent. So, how do our listeners understand what is the best solution for their needs?
Well, I think for a home seller, it is definitely laid out in writing that they're going to do this, this, and this. And we actually sit down and do a full-on presentation, not just about marketing, but about pricing and share with them our expertise, and then they can decide whether or not they want to work with us. On the buyer side, most of the time I don't see it. Most of the buyers actually meet the buyer for the first time at the house. So they don't know if they can buy a house on Craigslist or that they qualify. Because the first thing that happens is the listing agent takes the house, they create demand with their marketing and pricing and all that. So they've created the demand. But then a buyer wants to see a home, they connect up with the buyer's agent, they go look at the home, and then they decide what they're looking for, whether or not they qualify for it. So to me, it's kind of a backwards thing. That's why in the past I've kind of joked around. I said I felt like some buyers agents act like overpaid door openers. Many of them don't even want to do the job that I think they should be doing, like advocate for their buyer, represent them on the inspection, things like that. Just recently on a very high-end sale, when we're in negotiations to keep the contract together, where the paydays are really big, and when you go up over $1 million on the sales price, the agent that brought the buyer wouldn't talk to me about it. Oh no, that's done by my assistant, my transaction coordinator. I'm like, is that person licensed? Because it could mean the difference between your buyer getting this house or the next buyer getting this house and the whole deal falling apart. Oh yeah, he's licensed. He does that. I don't do that. And I'm just like, wow, I just don't understand. They define their own job as they go on. So as a consumer, you need to ask this question. If I'm working with you and I'm buying a home, are you going to work with me? Are you going to represent me? Or are you going to abdicate some of the responsibilities of contract to closing, like important deadlines that could mean the difference of you being able to negotiate on something or not? Are those going to be handed off to some unlicensed vendor like that they call transaction coordinator? That's another thing the agents are doing, is they're hiring these things called transaction coordinator. They're not licensed, there's no job description, and they are supposed to track important deadlines for the buyer. They actually will reach out to the listing agent and try to get the listing agent to do their job through the transaction coordinator. And many times I've seen them miss really important deadlines. So they're paying this vendor $300, $400, $500 to track their deadlines, and they mess it up. And it's a licensed person's requirement to be paying attention to what's going on with that contract that they wrote, and they're obligated to get to the finish line. So it's the Wild West out there, honestly. And I think at the end of the day, as a consumer, you got to sit down and get a face-to-face with whoever you want to work with and make sure you're comfortable going forward. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, we're talking about this difference between listing agent, selling agent. It can get confusing for the average person. Our listeners do understand what you're saying, though, in terms of the best solution for their. Okay, wait, hang on.
Yeah, I would just wrap it up because
Okay, good. All right.
I'm out of time. I talked too much on that one.
That's okay. I was worried about that. All right, 3, 2, 1. Barb Schlinker is the only agent I would recommend when you're thinking of making a move. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's host of the program and owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. We'll take a short break. When we come back, the top steps to downsize and declutter before selling your house. Plus, we'll have Barb's hot new listings. Stay tuned for that.
Did that make sense, or was that all convoluted?
I like that cemetery. I'm glad it's here, but it is so bleak out there. There's not a single tree anywhere to be found. And
What are you talking about?
cemetery, the Pikes Peak Veteran Cemetery.
Oh yeah, out there.
Uh,
It's out there in the yeah.
It's, I mean,
It's
The
not
only
as
thing I'm pissed off about is I still don't have a video of the 21 gun salute that I was promised.
Oh yeah. My parents are up in the one in
Yeah,
Fort Morgan,
the lady lost it.
oh my God,
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer.
that's not cool. I
Yeah.
mean,
I hope that segment made some sense.
I think that it does make sense. The problem is, of everything that you ever talk about, honestly believe that is probably the one subject that is the very hardest to explain. And
It is hard because
yeah,
it's
I
not
think
defined.
yeah, well, and I think you do as well good of a job as you can. I can't imagine, something being better than that. But that's not an easy. So declutter is, I think, a little bit easier to
Yeah.
understand.
You can define that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. All right. I'm good. How about you, Barb?
I'm ready.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, host of the program and owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, when people sell homes, they typically try to pick up and clean up so that it looks good when they're getting ready to sell. How does someone prepare their home for sale by decluttering?
Well, Richard, I think a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to all the clutter and stuff around them. And it really doesn't matter until you're presenting your home for sale. And the reason why you want to declutter when you're presenting your home for sale is that you want the buyers to appreciate the space. They're not buying your stuff, right? So you want them to visualize themselves living in that home. And that means you have to pare down some of the decorations, some of the excess stuff to make it look almost like a model home, which is very hard to do for most people. And so you kind of get used to stuff around you. It's kind of funny. It hit home with me back during the fires. Somebody suggested, because we were kind of in pre-evacuation, and somebody said, "Hey, go take a picture of all your stuff." And that way, if your house does burn down, at least you'll have some kind of record. So I thought, oh, good idea. So I took pictures, and then we didn't have to evacuate, thank God. But what happened was afterwards I looked at the pictures and went, oh my gosh, my house is cluttered. I didn't even know. So you get used to it, you don't notice it. And that is the best way to tell. Just take your phone, take pictures of rooms and look back at that photo, especially if you can look at it on a larger screen like a laptop or an iPad. And it will really usually speak back to you at, oh, okay, yeah, we probably need to move this or move that. Um, so, you have to keep in mind that you want the buyers to envision themselves living there. And that is why the builders are really so successful at doing this. What they tend to do is they will, build a house. So if it's just an empty house, guess what? It doesn't look that attractive. So they spend the money, they make the investment to put in nice furniture, somewhat austere, not overdone, not a lot of clutter. You'll notice they probably don't put a lot of window coverings on. There's no heavy window treatments or anything like that. It's just nice furniture, and you feel like you want to come in and sit down, and it looks very inviting. So they're really good at this. And that's probably a good rule of thumb to go look at model homes and see how they do it. Typically, they're well furnished, they're neutral, they don't have a lot of clutter. And they get these buyers to fall in love with the model home and go, okay, how do I get this home or a home just like this? So the first steps to decluttering are, first of all, take it one room at a time. I think a lot of people naturally want to gravitate to the hardest rooms first, which are things like closets and garages, but for marketing, we don't take pictures of closets or garages because they just don't photograph well unless they're perfectly empty. So you want to start with the key rooms that buyers care about. Number one, curb appeal. So that's on the outside of the house. Make sure it's not cluttered. Make sure your mulch is fresh. Make sure your doorbell isn't broken. Same thing with the backyard and the view. Not too much furniture, clean up, the dead plants this time of year. It's time to start planting pretty soon. Then the next room is the living room. Most people tend to put too much furniture in their living room. So how do you know? Take a picture of it. Take a look at it. Little things like a lot of stuff on the hard surfaces of tables and end tables and things like that are just overwhelming. Covers on those hard surfaces like doilies and little, runners, those kind of things. They look busy in photos. They're fine in person, but for the photos, you want to pack those away. Kitchen, everything off the counters except for the coffee pot. No dish towels hanging off the stove. That's a pet peeve of mine, but we can digitally erase that if people forget. Same thing with the bathrooms. You want to clear off all the clutter, pick up all the rugs for photo day. Same thing with master bedroom. Put everything away, everything off the side tables except for the lamps. All the clothing put away. Don't hang clothes on a hat rack or anything like that. So the spaces you don't need to declutter would be closets. Now, the master closet, they're definitely going to look at it and its size. So eventually you're going to have to do that room. And the tips that I've gotten from interior designers are that you want to pack away the clothes that you're not wearing, and everything should be off the floor. So if you have shoes on the floor, put those in boxes, put them up high. But just get rid of, when you sit down and decide what you're going to get rid of in a closet or somewhere, make 3 piles: keep, donate, toss out. As far as keeping, I would consider clothes that I've worn in the last year. Otherwise, get rid of it. And same with stuff. If you don't use it, like right now, I know we have 2 sets of china, and I'm not sure I've used it in the last 5 years. You could also consider renting a storage space for the stuff that you absolutely are going to take with you, but you don't want it on display while you're selling. And we actually provide interior designers to help you get ready for photo day. That's part of our services. And we even include a moving van to help you move stuff around, donate, repurpose, whatever. But in general, people tend to fill their homes with too much furniture, too many large pieces of furniture, lots of knickknacks. And with some people, it's a little bit challenging to get them to really pare it down. Usually the feedback I get is, well, it looks so bare in here. It doesn't look like anybody lives here. That's true, but that's the look you kind of want, just not completely empty, because empty is also not that attractive. So in the stuff that you're not going to move with you, consider donating to first family friends, see if they want some of your pieces that you're not going to move. There are a lot of church organizations that will actually take donated furniture, and Goodwill. Some of those places are pretty good about accepting that stuff. And so that's just one of the things that you can do. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how to get ready to sell your home by decluttering. And next up, we're going to be talking about some things that you should consider letting go of on your declutter journey. If you are thinking of move, give us a call. We help people with this all the time. And as part of what we do for our home sellers, we have more than typically 700 buyers that are a high match for any home that we put on the market. Or we also have cash offers if you don't want to deal with the getting ready for sale process either. Call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are interested in selling your home, you want to call Barb at 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about the best ways to get a house ready for sale by decluttering. That affects a lot of people. Barb, what are the top things that home sellers should consider before getting ready to downsize and preparing to sell their home?
Well, just some things that you probably haven't thought of. Like, I know I have some in my house. I have a whole bunch of vases that flowers came in. maybe a florist would like them back. I don't use them very often. I've got a ton of kitchen gadgets I don't use, an apple peeler, which is a contraption that you connect to the counter, old computers, old phones. There's a way to dispose of that, extra bags, gift wrapping supplies, cookbooks that you don't use, tea and coffee that you're not drinking, extra linens, granny's china. There are just different things that you should consider repurposing. Now, there are people that will buy them. There's some people that are really good at selling stuff on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, or you could, some of the more high-end stuff, you could either consider auctioning or taking to a consignment store. But a lot of people generally will tend to, hold on to stuff that's just valuable to them. And they get very surprised, like if their beautiful dining room set is something that their kids don't want, they're like, oh, I paid so much for it. What am I going to do with it? If you're not using it to sell, you can definitely consign the pretty ones and generally get some money back. So we can help you do that. As part of what our staff does is we sit down, we take a look at your home, give you tips on what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for sale, go over all the closing costs after we've established a competitive asking price, and show you exactly how much you're going to put in your pocket when it sells. And then if you want to let us handle the sale, we go forward with our team to help you do these things. But all you need to do is give us a call at 719-301-3900. Just on our website, we have over 28,127 buyers in waiting, looking for homes, and we can help you sell your home. Richard.
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, you've got hot new listings every week. This week, tell us about what you have.
I have some beautiful ones. I have a great home. It's a townhome actually off of Interquest that's priced at $399,500. Beautiful, almost new home. I have a great property out in Peyton on 5 acres with 4-car garage space, priced at $559,900. A stunning ranch down in Fountain that has 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, great backyard, in the low 5s on Declaration Drive. We have a beautiful home, 2-story home in Peyton on Wetterhorn Peak Drive that actually is going to be featured open from 12 to 1 today, priced in the low 6s. Stunning home with lots of bedrooms, beautiful. It has, one of the things I love about it, it has a butler's pantry, and right across from the butler's pantry, which is kind of like a counter with a little mini fridge, lots of places for either a coffee bar or to park your appliances. But right across from it is a massive walk-in pantry that's half the size of a bedroom. It's pretty cool. We have a beautiful home in the farm, very prestigious farm on Artful Way with gorgeous views of the Air Force Academy outside the covered back deck. Lots of bedrooms and baths. That is almost new home with beautiful, really high-end finishes. And a really cute remodeled home on 2516 West Willamette, priced in the mid-4s, actually low to mid-4s. This gorgeous home has been completely updated, and the lot is zoned R2, which means that you can actually add an auxiliary living unit in the backyard and basically collect rent from that. We have a stunning home in Glen Eagle on Rembrandt Court. Gorgeous views, has been completely updated in the low 6s. A beautiful ranch on Glory Drive that backs to open space in the upper 5s. A stunning home in Pueblo on Royal Troon in the 5s. Beautiful ranch with 5 bedrooms and gorgeous finishes there. And a spectacular home on Sunbird Cliffs, priced at $1.6 million with 5-car garage spaces. You could actually have another family live on the lower level, and that one's gorgeous too. And coming up for next week, we've got a couple of great properties. One is an adorable ranch near Fort Carson in the low 3s, and a spectacular remodeled Gardener Delight in Woodman Valley on 5 acres in the upper 7s. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. It airs every Saturday from 11 until noon, right after Cudlow. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900. Or as always, visit barbhasthebuyers.com. And you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Has the Buyers. Or you can listen to the podcast to hear the entire show on all of the popular platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and others. Thanks for listening this week. To reach out to Barb, that number is 719-301-3900. Barb, great talking with you. Have a great week. We'll talk next weekend.
Thank you. You as well. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.